Good afternoon to you and welcome. This is World at Noon. I am Oyumi Ayenigbara. Normalcy is gradually returning to the banking system and Akure on the state capital due to improvements in cash availability in commercial banks. Omoniola Ongbiji reports that most of the commercial banks visited are dispersing cash both at the ATM and banking halls.
Now we are relieved because we can withdraw money. You can see me now buying something. I use the money to buy whatever I want to buy.
From now to yesterday, we see things is moving small, fine. We are praying that God will still put more better.
These are the testimonies from average Nigerians who have experienced over 2 months of hardship arising from the Central Bank of Nigeria new Naira redesign policy.
It is quite clear that the crowd is going down, but we are still experiencing some difficulties in some banks. As I'm coming from some bank now, I'm unable to enter the bank. But those who are using ATM have access to a little cash. So it is getting reduced gradually.
There is money in circulation. There is money in ATM, even inside on the counter. People are trooping in, they are collecting money, they are free, and everything is in order.
Coming up from the bank, I don't even spend up to 30 minutes there, and there's no queue. Even can see the ATM machine there. People are not there. People are using their card. People are withdrawing from the counter, and there's not a lot of stress.
A non-Nigerian, Mr. George Oladoyibo, who expressed displeasure some weeks back over his inability to access cash, was cited beaming with smiles.
He was complaining bitterly that he was unable to get the cash he put in for. Baba, how much have you collected today now?
Well, just 20,000.
Like last week when they were unable to get.
They asked me to take 2,000. Well, I said, what do I want to do with 2,000?
So the commercial banks usually filled with customers were almost empty, while the few customers filed into the banking halls in a row. Automated teller machines, ATMs, were also dispensing without the usual crowd seen for some months now, as it took me less than 5 minutes to get the needed cash. Our interaction with the POS operator revealed that the cash crisis is gradually becoming a thing of the past.
For 1,000 to 10,000 now, I'm charging just only 100 naira. So then from 11,000 upward, I'm charging 200 naira.
An economic expert, Lawrence Adubiaru, lauded the cashless policy, saying if truly embraced, will further boost the nation's economy.
A peculiar situation need a peculiar solution. I believe that in a couple of days, things will normalize. The only problem which I see is that when you know that you are not prepared, why are you changing the color?
At the weekend, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, confirmed the evacuation of banknotes from its vaults to commercial banks across the country to further ease the circulation of banknotes of various denominations, with a directive that all commercial banks open for operation on Saturdays and Sundays. Omoniola Ongbiji, Osrc News.
The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has ordered the forfeiture of 3 vehicles and $50,000 belonging to the National President of the Maize Growers, Processors and Marketers Association of Nigeria, Professor Uche Edwin. Presiding Justice Tijani Regime made an order for the temporary forfeiture of the property to the federal government following an ex parte application by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Counsel for the EFCC, Rotimi Oyedepo, said the properties were reasonably suspected to have been acquired with proceeds of unlawful activities. The anti-graft agency had on March 16 arraigned Edwin on 11 counts bordering on conspiracy, retention and conversion of funds to the tune of over 1 billion naira. EFCC alleged that the money belonged to maize growers and marketers, saying the defendant committed the offences sometimes in 2021 in Lagos. Former United Kingdom Prime Minister Boris Johnson has made a case for a stronger mutually benefiting relationship between Nigeria and Britain to further unleash potentials of both countries. The former Prime Minister spoke in Lagos at the 16th Osigwe Lecture Series, which focused on developing human potentials and was attended by national and global leaders in politics. Apart from seeking closer Nigerian-UK ties, Johnson urged countries to unleash the potentials of their citizens by prioritizing education. He also enjoined Nigerians to be patriotic and avoid demeaning or demarketing the country. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has praised Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo for his democratic principles during a visit to the West African leader who is facing rising discontent over inflation and fresh concerns about regional security. Harris is just beginning a week-long trip to the continent that will also take her to Tanzania and Zambia, part of a concerted effort to broaden U.S. outreach at a time when China and Russia have entrenched interests of their own in Africa. Akintunde Akishimola has the detail.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris has been to Ghana, bearing in mind the West Africa's bilateral relationships, the biggest of which is China.
We support Ghana's engagement with the IMF.
The U.S. Vice President's week-long visit to Africa is the latest by a stream of senior officials as Washington seeks to counter growing Chinese and Russian influence on the continent.
The relationship between the United States and this continent and African leaders is an important one. There's a historical basis for the relationship, not to mention as we look forward, as all governments should, and recognize the unachieved, as of yet, opportunities that exist going forward.
Harris, who will also visit Tanzania and Zambia, said the United States will continue to push forward for all bilateral creditors to provide meaningful debt reduction for countries that need it. That includes Ghana, which defaulted on most of its $29 billion of its external debt last year as interest payments and inflation soared. It still needs to negotiate a resolution with its private international bondholders and bilateral creditors, including Beijing, with which it has a $1.9 billion of debt. China has invested heavily in Africa over the past 2 decades, particularly in terms of infrastructure, mining, timber, and fishing. At a news conference with Harris, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo suggested there was an obsession in the United States with Chinese activities on the continent.
But there's no such obsession here. But China is one of the many countries with whom Ghana is engaged in the world.
Harris also announced a $100 million package to support conflict prevention and stabilizing efforts in Benin Republic, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Guinea, and Togo. That's against the backdrop of Russia's private military contractor Wagner Group providing security assistance in 7 countries. But Akufo-Addo reiterated his concerns about Wagner's presence in West Africa, saying it raised the possibility that once again the continent will become the playground for great power conflicts. Akintunde Akishimola, Osrc News.
6 people, 3 children and 3 staff have been killed in a shooting by an ex-student at a school in the U.S. city of Nashville, Tennessee. 3 of the victims were pupils aged 9 or under at Covenant School. The private Christian school has about 200 students and teaches pupils from 3 years old up to around 12. President Joe Biden has called the shooting a family's worst nightmare. And with that, we conclude Word at Noon. Thank you very much for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Good afternoon.